Hello and welcome to ReginaldESQ. I'm Underhook and this is my review of the premium American Tier 5 medium tank, the M4A2E4 Sherman. I'm actually going to call it the E4 Sherman. So this is a premium tank that is not available for purchase on any of the servers except the RU server, I believe, the Russian server, and was originally a gift tank to people who played 1,000 or more games in the beta testing, and that was given to players on the NA and EU servers. Now I am on the SEA server and it was never given, so it's going to be a pretty rare tank on the SEA server. The only reason I got it was available in our October mission, the Fury mission. If you completed the 9 missions, you got this tank as a reward, so that's how I've got it. It's not available for purchase, so you might not see it that often, and if you do see it, I'll show you how to nail it. And I guess the kind of people who would want this tank would be people who perhaps have the M4 Sherman, which is the Tier 5 American medium tank, and you might use this for training your crew or something like that. It does make good credits. Is it a good tank? Well, it's not as good as the M4 Sherman, and I was going to say it's a terrible tank, but after driving it a bit more, I can say that it's okay. It's okay. It's definitely not good, but it's okay. So let's get into the review. It has 480 hit points. Now I will be comparing this to the E4 for those of you who, sorry, the M4. So those of you who know the M4 will understand what I'm talking about. Has 480 hit points, which is average for Tier 5 medium, but it's 20 more hit points than the M4, which has 460. It weighs in at 31.8 tons, which makes it the heaviest tank in its class. So you can ram any other medium Tier 5 that you feel like, and some heavies even. It is quite heavy. The next heaviest, I think, is the M4 Sherman at 30 ton. Now, its speed is listed at 52 kilometers an hour in forward and 18 kilometers an hour in reverse. Now, that is average for a Tier 5 medium, but it doesn't really do 52 on the flat. It's about 45 on the flat is probably more realistic. It will go pretty quick downhill though, and so it's pretty similar in a way to the M4 Sherman, which does 48 in forward. Track traverse of 37 is identical to the M4 Sherman and is average for a Tier 5 medium tank. The turret traverse of 41 is not bad and is average for a Tier 5 medium, and it's a little bit better than the 39 on the M4 Sherman. So the tank is pretty maneuverable, does okay. The view range of 370 meters is the same as the M4 Sherman and is pretty darn good actually for a Tier 5 medium. The only Tier 5 medium that's better is the M7 with 380 meters of view range. Signal range of 570 is okay, it's average. It's not as good as the M4 Sherman though. Now, the camouflage of this tank, well, it's a big tank. The camouflage is terrible, and it's the worst in class. When I say terrible, that's not right. It's okay, but it is the worst of the Tier 5 mediums. The M4 Sherman's actually not far behind it. It's a big tank as well. The M4 Sherman does do better than the E4 here, though, in gun depression. The M4 has 12 degrees of gun depression and 25 degrees of elevation. This tank has, well, it's kind of weird, the gun depression on this tank, actually. It has the 25 elevation, but the gun depression, I will show you in Tank Inspector so you can see exactly how it works. But these drive are, I suppose, an area for the driver's head to go into, and it's the same here, it looks like, for the gunner. They prevent the gun. The gun actually has to go over them. So in the middle here, you have 10 degrees of gun depression, but when it goes over these viewports, it only goes to 5 degrees of gun depression. And it's kind of weird because the first time I drove this tank, I thought, oh, it's got terrible gun depression. What the hell? American tank with terrible gun depression. Next time I drove it, I thought, hang on, the gun depression's alright. What's going on? Well, WikiTanks lists it as having terrible gun depression. But then in the notes it says 10 degrees. Tank Inspector, I think, lists it as 5 degrees or something, and I'm trying to work out what was going on, and I'll show you exactly what's going on in Tank Inspector. But it's a quirky tank. It has some quirky features. Now, obviously, the other thing I guess that separates this, why it's nowhere near as good as, in my opinion, as the M4, is that the gun just isn't as good. So there's obviously no grind for this being a premium tank. It's fully equipped. But let's have a look at the gun. It's a 75 caliber gun. It has a 15.75 rate of fire. Now that's a good rate of fire for a medium tank. It's quite good. No problems there at all. And it has heaps of ammunition. I think it has 90, 100 rounds, something like that. So it's plenty of ammunition with a high rate of fire. No problems there at all. but it only has 92 millimeters of penetration. Now, the M4 Sherman has 115 millimeters of penetration, so 92 is poor. And fortunately, though, this premium tank is limited. It gets preferential matchmaking, and it will not see tanks higher than tier 6, which is great because it gets slaughtered by tier 6s and bounces off them all day. Now, you can penetrate most tier 5 tanks frontally, except heavies. You won't penetrate tier 5 heavies frontally, and tier 6s you'll have trouble penetrating mediums frontally. And put it this way, an AMX-40 tier 4 light tank, you will bounce off it at times. So yeah, it depends. Terrible. So as well as that, the M4 Sherman does 128 damage per shot, whereas this thing only does 110 damage per shot. So we've got low damage combined with low pen. Now, if you use the premium ammunition, you get 127, but you'll still bounce off KV1s, and you'll still bounce off the front of tier 6 heavies. So you really have to get shots into the side if you can. Now, to make it worse, the accuracy is 0.46, which is appalling accuracy. It's terrible, which kind of means you need to be close range, and that's difficult when you haven't got really good armor. But anyway, it is what it is. The aiming time of 2.1 seconds isn't bad, though. That's not bad at all. But yeah, 0.46 accuracy is terrible. Now, it's worse than that, though. It's worse than what it sounds, because the shell velocity on this tank is appalling. When you're firing, especially at range, you'll see your shell goes very, very high trajectory. It feels like you're firing a howitzer. The shells just go in a really high gun arc. So, one, it's hard to hit a moving target because of the high arc. Right, so the slow velocity takes a long time, so it's hard to time your shots. But as well as that, because of the high arc, you can't aim at tanks on horizon and have any chance of hitting a moving tank on the horizon, because it's going to think you're shooting it somewhere past there, and the shell's going to go way, way, way over the tank that you're shooting at. So it is very similar to firing a howitzer gun. It's awful, and the gun really destroys this tank. Anyway, so yeah, it's a hill fighter with some issues regarding these, which I will show you. And it has a high rate of fire. So a hill fire with a high rate of fire, that's about it. But you really need to get flanking shots. Now, in these games, my crew is fully trained. I also use this same crew in my Pershing, so I move them around a bit, so they're fully trained. But their skills aren't fully up to scratch yet. So this guy is 6th Sense, but it's not 100% trained on the commander, so it doesn't work at all because it's a perk. Snapshot, 88%. Smooth ride, 87%. Situational awareness, 88%, so it will extend the view range a little bit. And 87% camouflage on that guy. I have binoculars, camouflage net, and I have vents fitted, so everyone's crew skills are boosted by 5%. And I have small repair kit, large first aid kit fitted. I'm carrying 10 rounds of APCR ammunition and 80 rounds of standard ammunition, so there you go, 90 rounds in the gun. I don't carry any HE ammunition because I don't think the HE is any good. It only has 38mm of pen, which is the same as the T18 at tier 2, so it's pretty much useless against anything. So I will show you now some tank inspector, and then we'll get into some gameplay. So let's check out the E4 Sherman in tank inspector. First of all, let's show you that gun depression I was talking about. So we'll move the gun over here and lower the gun. Now watch it as it passes over those driver viewports. See that? So what's happening there is it's minus 10 degrees of gun depression, but as it pops over those guys, it has to lift to get over them, and it goes to 5 degrees of gun depression. Bit of a bummer, since this is about the perfect angle for the tank for fighting, you know, for angling your armor, and that's about where you lose your gun depression, which is a bit of a bummer. And so, like I say, it's a quirky tank. The armor is quite complicated. It's got all sorts of different spots in it, so it's hard to learn where's the best spot to aim, but I'll show you a good few spots if you want to nail this tank. The tank is set up for fighting on hills with the heavy sloping at the front, and you'll see what I mean. The beak of the tank here is 108mm thick, which is quite good. And the upper glacis here is 88mm, which is not too bad as well. When you consider you're fighting on a hill, that's why this is strengthened, because it's probably going to be the flattest area they're shooting at, so they made that the strongest area, whereas the more sloped areas, they've lessened the armor to lessen the weight. So not bad. We're getting over 100mm of armor all through there, and if I keep it sort of like, you know, an angle where you'd be looking up at the tank, this 64mm here is actually giving us the equivalent of over 100mm while we're looking down at it. However, these driver viewports, they kind of tend to flatten out, and if you shoot those, even when it's on a hill, you should have a pretty good chance of penetrating. Well, definitely you'll penetrate. Much easier to penetrate those areas. Also, there's a machine gun port here, which is only 55mm thick, which is pretty easy to pen. If they ever do a HD model of this tank, they will probably eliminate that weakness, as that's what they seem to be doing with the HD modeling. If you're the same height of the tank, or a bit higher, the top of these driver and gunner viewports are sloped, so you can shoot into them, and they are only 25mm thick. So if you have a 75mm gun, 75 caliber gun or better, you will overmatch and basically get a guaranteed pen if your gun's accurate enough to hit it. The side of the tank is only 38mm thick, but it is a medium tank, and you do expect that on American mediums to have weak sides. So not a problem, but it's easy to penetrate. The rear is also 38mm. The top deck of the tank is 19mm thick, but the top sides here are sloped, so they can be shot from the sides, and they're a little bit thicker at 25mm, but it's still not much. Top of the turret and cupola are also 25mm. On the rear of the turret we have 51mm, except for this little section here, which is a bit sloped and is 38mm. Sides, of course, are 51 as well. And the front of the cupola is also 51mm, but it's a very small cupola to shoot at, which is good for a hill fighting tank. And when you're actually on the hill shooting down, you can't even really see the cupola, so that is a bonus to this tank. Now the turret armor is complex, as you can see. The major front part of the turret here is 76mm, which will bounce some light tanks. Most mediums can pen it and most heavies can pen it, but when you're like looking down at a tank, it does come up, as you can see here, like the lower part there, 113 and 91 up there, so it does do better when you're shooting down, which is what you really want to be doing in this tank most of the time. Now you can see this small section here is 64mm, and I think really it would be a fluke shot if anyone hit it. There is also a small section here which is only 51mm, which could be an area for light tanks to aim at. The mantlet is pretty good, and you can see here, this purple section here, we have 76mm, which is overlaying, sorry, it's 51mm, which is overlaying 76mm of armor underneath, which gives us pretty good armor. The middle section here though is only the 76mm, but then when we get lower again, it starts overlaying again. So it's just that middle section. If you're shooting, aim for the middle section if you have to shoot the mantlet. This pink section here is 89mm thick, which is pretty good, and when you go up here, it does overlay the 51mm once again, and is very, very, very tough. As you can see, it's giving us the equivalent of over 300 there, and the same with the lower portion. And if we're firing up at it, it's pretty darn good. So not bad armor on the front of the turret, just with a few weak spots that can be capitalized on if you know where to shoot the tank. I think that's about all we need to say about it. Yeah, let's have a look at some gameplay. Alright, so we're in our E4 Premium Tier 5 Sherman tank, and it's a Tier 5 game on Ravanka. You can see that nearly all of the tanks are Tier 5. The enemy has 3 Tier 4s and 1 Tier 3 arty. So I'm heading for the forest, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to flank some tanks. So you can see we're actually doing about 48, so doing that little downhill bit we had there, so not too bad. It is quite maneuverable, although that does vary a lot depending on the terrain, I've noticed. Now the gun isn't accurate, so really you want to be at close range, but very dangerous to get close. Now this map does suit this tank with all the hills, because this really is a hill fighting tank. Now I can't remember when I played this game whether I was aware yet about the gun depression changing depending on where the gun is pointing. So we'll see as the game progresses whether I was aware of it at this stage or not. I might just speed this up a little bit now to 2 times. It looks like we're going to get shots. No, I'll speed it back up to 2 times again. Just while I'm moving into position here. I was unusual. There were no tanks in this area. Normally there are. Okay, slow it down. Now here we've got a Churchill, one on the side. So that shot bounces. I go for the track. And whilst we damage the track, we don't actually track him. That's how piss weak the gun is. So we track him this time, still not doing any damage. That one misses, believe it or not. And we're firing into his exhaust ports on the side, which is the weakest part, and the second shot doesn't even pen it. So you can see there that tier 5 heavy into the side still had trouble penetrating. The gun, that penetration is terrible. I did have a tier 6 game, but I'm not going to show it to you. I did actually get a class 1 in it, but it was a boring game. I just hid basically the whole game and sniped. But in that game, you'll see I bounced. Oh, gee whiz. I fired about 65 rounds and bounced about 30 of them. So, yeah, the pen is poor. So, this is perfect. We're getting side shots, which is what we want. So, we're bouncing off the KV-1. Our pen is borderline to penetrate the side of a KV-1. We get that one in. Yay! We penned. So, fortunately, this tank does not see tier 7s, because if it did, it would be almost useless. We actually pen there again. I'm actually just trying to track this guy, keep him tracked. And while he's tracked, just going for his engine, see if we set fire or something. So he's gone. We're actually doing alright. We've got quite a few hits. And yeah, if we can stay hidden and stay near hills and stuff, not expose too much of our tank, that's kind of ideal for this tank. As you can see, we accelerated quickly there going down that little downhill section. Now we're winning, it's 9-6, so our team's doing pretty well. We could still lose it, but the team seems to be playing quite well. People aren't just sort of hanging back and sniping, people are shooting and then moving up when they need to, so looks like we've got a pretty good team. See if I can get a shot on this guy here. Okay, lower plate of a Panzer 3-4 and we bounced. Tier 5 medium and we bounced off his front lower plate. So thankfully we penetrated the Panzer 38. That would have been embarrassing if we'd bounced off that tier 4 light tank. Alright, now looks like we're going to win. The enemy only have 3 tanks remaining and we have 7. So if we lose this, then we're really bad. There's a T1 heavy to my left and I probably can't penetrate him. So I'm not really going for him. I can see the Wolverine and the Panzer 4H. I have a reasonably good chance of penetrating him. The Wolverine's dead, but it looks like he simultaneously took out our KV-1, or perhaps the Panzer 4H did. He's probably packing HE ammo, so I've got to be careful because if he hits me in the side, he will probably... will he one-shot me? No, he probably won't one-shot me, but he'll almost one-shot me. And I can see that our tank up there seems to be dealing, our T-34 seems to be dealing with a T1 Heavy, so I'm going to not worry about it. In fact, he's just taking care of that T1 Heavy. And the Panzer 4H is the only tank left in the game. I'm proceeding to his last known position, which is right here in front of me. And he's not there. So now I turn, I figure he has to be heading over this way somewhere. Oh, he's going for our Artie. Oh, can I save Artie? Oh, Artie misses him. So we've got a rear shot, which is perfect, and the shot actually hits. You can see here the high gun arc of the shots. Now he is at 480 meters, I think he is. No, actually I don't know what range he is because my rangefinder isn't working yet. That mod hasn't been updated for 9.3 at the time of this game, so I didn't have a range finder on him, didn't tell me his range. But he was a fair way off, I guess, but you can see the height that the shells travel at. And a very slow shell velocity. So I'm trying to catch him. We're doing 50 odd kilometers an hour, so the tank might be a little bit faster than I said in the review. Although I think we did have a downhill start. Looks like we're pretty much going to finish up the game where we started the game. We've gone right round the map. And I might just end it there because I actually don't get another shot on Panzer IV-H. Someone else shoots it and finishes it off. So a victory, a Class 2 badge, and we got Confederate for that one as well. Hit quite a few tanks. Let's have a look at the next screen. So we finished second for experience, only just. Oh no, yeah, only just second. The Stug 3G, they did a lot more damage than us, having a really good game with 4 kills as well. And the next screen, we can see that we fired 25 shots, of which 17 hit. Accuracy is not a big feature of this gun. Of the 17 that hit, 13 penetrated, so not too bad really. We did get a lot of side shots which helped us a bit, and some of those, what it says are penetrations, would have been track damage. We did 953 damage, which is not bad in this tank, and a fair bit of it was over 300 meters, so we were long range shooting. We damaged 7 vehicles, and also got 643 assistance damage, which was probably from the tracks we were shooting. Now you can see the income on this tank though is very good. It wasn't exactly a fantastic game, but we made 44,000, and the ammunition, if you're using standard ammunition, is pretty cheap. So we still made 43,000 profit. That's big profit at tier 5. So if you want something that just makes credits, and if you happen to have the M4 Sherman, not a bad tank to have. And we got 738 XP, and that was enough for a Class 2. I did get a Class 1 in this tank, which was just under 1,000. So I reckon Mastery would be about 1,050 or 1,100, something like that.
Let's go.
So, good people of the internet, another game for you in the E4 Premium Sherman tank. Tier 5 game once again. This time though, there's not a lot of tier 5s. There's only 6 tier 5s on the enemy team, a bunch of tier 4s, and a couple of unfortunate tier 3s, poor buggers. So I'm heading off. I've got a tank with good gun depression, so the M3 Stuart just shot me. I don't know why, but he did. Yeah, good move, matey. So anyway, who is that guy? I don't know. Anyway, we have a tank with good gun depression, so my basic rule is if I've got good gun depression, I go for the hills. So I'm heading for the hilliest section, as is that Crusader there. He's got the same idea as me. So I can use the strengths of my tank as best as possible. And here we go. So the enemy only has 2 heavy tanks, a Churchill 1, which has not very good gun depression, and a KV 1, which has not very good gun depression. So hopefully by using the hills, I can avoid those 2 tanks as well, or avoid being shot by them. K-Ho there, which is whoa! Panzer 1C comes out of nowhere, and we get 2 shots into him, and that was it. Tier 3 tank, I guess he just decided to get out of this game as quickly as possible, which, okay, and maybe trying to get a scout medal while he was doing it. Now the Kehoe was almost dead because our Crusader had been taking care of him, and I managed to put the killing shot in there, steal the kill. Now someone is capping, so I figure I'm going to take care of it. I've just spotted him there as his Stug 3G. Lining up, he spotted me too, and I get a shot into him. I move back a little bit. He bounces off me, so it was worth that little bit of moving there. He didn't get a good aim. This time he gets one into me, but I've decided I'm going to take care of him. I haven't got too much of my tank showing, and he was having to shoot up at me, so my armor was pretty effective. So you can see there we did bounce a shot from that Stug, but he did put one into us as well. And we did bounce those shots from the Panzer 1C as well, which, hell, you'd want to, wouldn't you? Alright, so I've got a Matilda. I am worried about the Matilda. It does have a very high penetration rapid firing gun, and he can penetrate me fairly easy. I can also see there's a Wolverine on the right. I'm not sure. It looks like the Wolverine I've got to take care of first. He's not looking at me. And now, he has a good gun. Oof. Yeah, and he got me, 116. That was bad. I didn't want to take that hit, but I did. Now I've just been shot. It says I've been shot by the Matilda. Matilda shot me, but somebody else shot me from the right. And it hasn't come up on my screen. I think the Crusader accidentally shot me from the right, but I don't think he did any damage. Alright, so Chinu Kai is dangerous, has a good gun. The Chinu has a good gun, and so does the Chinu Kai. So I don't want to get shot by him. He'll do about 130 damage to me if he hits me. So his armor's not great though, about 75 mil, so I can pen him. Uh-oh, Hetzer. Ah, we bounced. Damn this gun. Can I get another shot on Hetzer? No, I don't. I've got to be careful here because if I move around on the Chinu Kai, the Hetzer could come out and shoot me. Now, I noticed that the Crusader behind me is going around the other way. So, on the map, I'm just watching. So, I decided to go around this way. I'm just going to risk it. I'm going to keep moving. If I stay close to this wall, the Hetzer will have to come out a long way to get me. And I think he'll be too scared to do that because I also have a Wolverine behind me on my left, which should take care of him. So, get a shot into the Chinu Kai there. We don't get enough damage to kill him. But our Crusader's after him. So now that I know also I've got a Wolverine on my left, you can see on the map there, who is putting pressure on this Hetzer. So I now am pretty sure, I think about going around this way on the Hetzer, but then I think, no, the Wolverine's there, I can go around the back. Because if I go that way, he'll already be pointing at the Wolverine, defending himself, so I should be able to go around the back and get a free shot at this Hetzer, if he's still alive when I get there. And he is still alive, waiting for the gun depression, and bang, just pop the shot in. And we get rid of him. All they have left now is artillery. It's been a whitewash. Yeah, we've just slaughtered them. Looks like we slaughtered them on the other flank as well. I know what it's like being on the other side of that, so sorry guys on the other team. It's not much fun when your team just collapses. So it looks like their heavy tanks maybe went the wrong way because we didn't even run into their heavy tanks. Heavy tank should have gone where we were, but anyway. So just looking for artillery, and it has now been spotted. He's over there. She's actually coming down. Oh, our team's capped. So not a bad game, action-packed. Once again, a Class 2 badge, and we hit a few tanks, had a bit of fun. Next screen, we ended up top for XP and on top for damage, so we did alright there. We fired 16 shots, 14 of them hit 12 penetrations, which is pretty good. So the accuracy held up alright at close range. Yeah. We did 1,079 damage, which was pretty good for this tank. We received 9 hits, 4 of them penetrate, so we did bounce 5 shots, but I think 4 out of the 5 were from the Panzer 1C, and I think the other one was from our tank that shot me at the start, the M5 Stuart. We spotted 2 vehicles, damaged 7, destroying 4, which is a really good result. Also did 17 base defense points on that Stug, I think it was. Now, we made 41,000 credits, so very profitable tank. You will make good money out of this tank. 36,000 profit now. I just looked at that, and that's a bit more money on, I think we would normally spend on ammunition. So I went back and had a look. I did actually fire a premium round, which I didn't tell you about during the replay, and that was at the Matilda. So I fired my first shot at Matilda, which bounced. Then I loaded a premium round and fired that round at the Matilda and penetrated it. Just to give you an idea, a standard round in this tank is only 56 credits, which is one of the reasons why you make so much money in this tank. However, a premium round is 2,800 credits. So you can see that very quickly, if you're firing a lot of premium rounds, let's say you fire 10 premium rounds in the game, that's 28,000 credits, and your profit will drop very quickly. So it's one of those things. Anyway, 809 was a Class 2 badge. That's it. Thank you for watching my review of the M4A2E4 Sherman, the American Tier 5 Premium Tank. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more reviews, please subscribe to ReginaldESQ. Have fun.